Okay, time to continue our videos on the dishes that are going to be required for the Scout Merit, the Cooking Merit Badge. I told you we were going to make a dish, chicken piccata. So it's a very easy dish to make at home. It's just chicken, a little sauce. We're going to show you how to do all this. I usually start with a chicken breast. I've cleaned it up from the store. I usually just take a knife and I butterfly it. Your hand stays flat. And you split the chicken open, okay, and you are able to then start the next process, which is a lot more fun, given that we're going to pound these into thinner pieces. Now, you take 2 pieces of a plastic bag, because I'm doing quite a few. I took a suck, whatever these vacuum bags are, because they're stronger, and you just lay it down, the plastic over, you take your pounder. Every scout on the planet wants to pound stuff. So you'll notice it spreads out when it's pretty thin. That's good enough. You set it aside. Now a couple things on pounding. You see I've got these nice quartz countertops. Don't pound on the countertop. I brought out a cutting board. I think if I started pounding on my quartz countertops, my wife would kill me. I guarantee you, your mother will not be happy. So plastic wrap, pound. Now you're probably looking at this and saying, you know, I don't have this fancy pounder, which is fine. I'll show you in a minute. You don't need it. So you pound. Now if you're cooking for just 3 or 4 of you, it doesn't take long to do this. Each one of these takes less than 10 or 15 seconds to pound. Now just as an example of what if you don't have a nice pounder like that, that's easy to handle, you can take a cast iron pan, hold it as flat as you can, and you'll see that pounded it pretty thin pretty fast. So tools are not the key thing here. You can use a lot of things. Any heavier pan will do. This obviously gives you a little more control. I have a little wooden one. It works fine too, but that's as fast as it can. But you need to get it thin, less than 1/4 of an inch thick. And then we'll just pound the last one here before we move on to the next step. Okay, that's how you pound these chicken cutlets down into a piece that's ready to be cooked. We'll go on from there. Okay, step number 2, we have the flattened chicken. We're ready to move into flour. Now, traditionally, we can go ahead and salt and pepper this a little bit. I've got flour here in front of me, and we're going to take a little salt. By the way, I've touched the chicken, but salt, I can actually touch salt because the salt is a preservative. I couldn't touch anything else. You notice I put my gloves on here to work with chicken. You don't have to wear gloves, but then you have to wash your hands more. Chicken is the one thing that you want to be careful of handling in the kitchen so that you don't, cross-contaminate anything else. Would you open that, Logan? I dump this in. I forgot to put some lemon pepper in there also. Shake a bunch of it in there. Oh, open the other side. Dump it in. Now, I also added some lemon pepper to this to season the chicken. Okay. Maybe a little more. Come on, go. There you go. Just to make sure the flour is seasoned. Now, as we go into each of these, I will probably also get some seasoning from the chicken on here. I'm not adding a lot of salt. I can salt and pepper the chicken, but we're going to have a sauce with the lemon, and you're not going to need as much salt on this dish, which will make your mother happy. Now, some of your parents will probably ask you why we're not dipping this in egg. We dip it in flour, and then in egg, and then back in flour. That would be more of a chicken francaise. For this particular purpose, the chicken is only dipped in flour. So we're going to dip all this chicken in the flour. Again, I have a lot. If this were home, you would have 4 or 5 pieces of chicken for your family, maybe a little more for leftovers, and you're going to really like this. So I'll just go through each piece, and then we'll get them ready to start cooking, and we'll go from there. Okay, now we're ready to cook the chicken. So I've got my pan on the heat, medium-high heat. I've got flame, whatever that is for you. Medium-high heat is good enough. Now I'm going to add here a little olive oil. So olive oil, you can use whatever oil you have. We have avocado, peanut, olive, vegetable. For this case, I think olive oil is the best. It's a little more healthy for you. But in the olive oil, we also add a tablespoon or 2 of butter. Now the butter adds a richness to it, helps it brown a little bit. The oil already in the pan helps the butter not to burn or scorch or brown as it is, because the milk fat won't burn if it has that much oil in it. So as soon as we get up to heat here, we're going to start to cook our chicken. This is just easier to do this here at home than at the church tomorrow. So I don't have enough time. Maybe the power strips go out again, whatever happens. We're going to start here. Okay, so I have my first piece of chicken. You can bring the chicken in really slow. Drop it away from you so there's no spilling or oil splashing up on yourself. I can get another couple of pieces in here. Smaller. Now the key is not to fill the pan up too much. If you fill the pan up too much, what you're going to have is it won't cook fast, and you'll have steam coming out of the meat, and it seems to just steam it, and it will not pan fry it very much. We want a brown coating on this chicken as we finish up, and that will brown in the sauce or the pan, and the browning of the little chicken parts and the flour goes into the oil and creates a thing we call fond. And that fond is what's going to make the sauce taste even better. And I know that flour's dried out here a little on the chicken. You can see this isn't going to take very long. This chicken, most of these are fairly thin pieces. This one's a little thicker. Probably could have been pounded a little thinner. But this will not take long to cook. We're probably talking 3 minutes per side. And in this case, they're going in the oven anyway to hold, so we don't have to cook them exact. I don't want to overcook them tonight. For your family, you're only going to cook about 5 or 6 of these chicken breasts, or half chicken breasts, so that it won't take very long. You will, if you're doing that and it's going to take a few more, you're going to cook a few more, it's going to take a minute. Take a sheet pan, put the chicken on, or turn the oven on to about 200 degrees. When one set of chicken is done, put it on that pan in the oven while you cook the next batch. And then as all the chicken is done, it can sit in the oven while we make the actual sauce that goes with this. We're getting close to being able to turn the chicken. Obviously the thinner pieces cook much faster, so we'll be taking those out. They could be just a little browner, but not too much. You're not trying to fry chicken, you're just trying to basically saute the chicken in the pan. Let it build some flavor in the flour. You see already around the pan, there's some darkness in the oil. That's the flour that came off the chicken and is browning. So probably about 3 more minutes on this side. Then onto the pan and into the oven, and we'll start cooking the rest of the chicken before we actually start making our sauce. Obviously, with the kind of sauteing, you can hear my fan, my vent hood here running. It's a little annoying, but we have to do that or we'll stink up the whole house. Now, if you are going to put your chicken in the oven, remember it will continue to cook in the oven, and you don't want to overcook it. I would rather have this chicken almost slightly pink. Let it go in the oven. It'll pick up another 3 to 4 degrees in the oven and be perfect when it comes out, and not be dry or tough. Now, these other pieces are done. We'll remove those from the pan. Wait for this one. In the meantime, I'll actually start cooking my second one, since these are a little thinner. I'll probably get 2 batches done before I'll have to add a little more oil and butter to the pan. Obviously my tongs I need to be a little softer because I tore some of the coating off the chicken, and you don't want to do that. Make it lose its taste. That's probably ready to go. We'll finish cooking these 2. And then we'll start to build our sauce. We'll get to that here in just a minute. So as soon as these 2 chicken breast halves are done, we'll start making our sauce. Okay, now we've cooked our chicken. It's over here ready to be stored for the night. And now we're going to start making our sauce. So to make our sauce, I've got the pan drippings here, you can see. I'm reheating it. Now you see this looks like black stuff in here, but this isn't actually burned. It's very dark cooked flour, parts of the chicken. As I said earlier, we call this fond. Now as the pan heats up with a little oil in it, we have the oil left, I'm going to add just maybe a tablespoon or so of garlic into this, and we'll let this just saute until it gets fragrant. Fragrant means as soon as you can start smelling the garlic, smell really good.
Or really bad.
If it starts to smell bad, you've gone too far. But as long as it smells good, you're good to go. Now, the next phase of this is pretty important. It's called deglazing the pan. This uses the liquid goes into the pan. As it warms,
what liquid?
well, that, by the way, thanks Logan, that liquid was chicken stock. That's from a can. You can use bouillon cubes. Some people just use water, but I don't like it. The French obviously, and Italians would use wine. That's probably not going to go over very big with your parents if I tell you to come go get a bottle of wine at the liquor store. So we're going to start with chicken stock, an acceptable substitution for this particular thing. And as the liquid heats, we're going to begin to scrape with our wooden spoon or wooden spatula the bottom off all these dark bits off the pan. So that when we're done, this is like actually doing the dishes in the pan. instead of scrubbing it and letting it go down the sink, we're going to put all this good tasty stuff in the sauce. As you notice, most of it is not as dark. It's not really black and burned, it's just dark. Takes a second to get it all up. Now, how much sauce you like depends on, how saucy you like the chicken and how much is going to go on your pasta. If you want a little more, add a little more stock. So it's going to get the rest of this scraped up here. This is not very hard. I'm not using, well, I don't have Superman muscles, so I'm not using those. So anyway, we're now heating that up a little bit. Now at this stage, we can let this cook a little longer. It doesn't need to cook very long. Heat's, by the way, medium or so now. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to add probably just over 1/2 to 2/3 of a cup of lemon juice. That's what makes this dish taste so delicious, gives it that spring light flavor, that nice light kind of feeling of spring, not a heavy dish. Now we stir that and bring it together. Now, as that comes together a little more, and I know sometimes people are going, it looks too dark. It's not going to be tasty. Look, it's going to taste good, trust me. And most of this you're going to want, people would like some of the darker bits in there. The key was not to let it burn in the pan too dark and let it actually burn. Then you can taste that. But right now this looks pretty good. Now, as you go through this process, I'm just going to taste this once. Okay, it's very lemony, which is what we wanted. Now it's going to finish off. At this stage, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the heat off, and we're going to just take a little butter. It's supposed to be fairly chilled. Now we're just going to put this in the pan. Probably about 4 tablespoons of butter. Yeah, I know it looks unhealthy, but it's going to taste good. So that's 3 or 4 tablespoons of butter. Now I'm going to turn the heat back on a little bit. Now this butter is going to help the sauce thicken up a little bit. We're going to turn the heat on low. Let the butter melt. Now I noticed one thing when I tasted this, and this is why you always begin to taste your food as it starts to come to the end. And I decided, based on how it tasted, that we're going to have to add a little salt. Sorry, I didn't have my salt with me. So in this case, a little salt in there. You can taste it again. Now you can let this sauce just, simmer for a second, very low heat because you've got the butter in here. And it should be runny. It's not supposed to be thickened up. So this will be over your pasta, over the chicken. At this stage, it probably actually needs maybe 1 more tablespoon of butter as I look at it. And let it come up to a little warmness. And at this stage, what we would do is then just add parsley. Now, if you think the sauce is too runny right now, you can always thicken it with just a little bit of cornstarch and water to give it a little silkiness, and it would maybe coat the back of a spoon. It depends on how you like it. I haven't decided yet in this particular case how this one's going to turn out. I've already added the parsley. I wanted to show you how that sauce was going to go. Now at this stage, I'm going to cook the rest at this later in the big batch. At this stage, you would plate it just by simply the pasta, piece of the chicken on top, the sauce, and garnish with some lemon slices and maybe a little more parsley on top. And that would be your family dinner. We'll serve it with those green beans we're going to make next. Okay, there you go.